Vacant. It's the word I would use to describe myself. Ever since that mind-boggling experiment, I haven't been myself. It's been 3 years since the experiment took place. I used the $2 million to move into a cabin in Alaska to get away from my past and attempt to forget about who I was and the experiences that led me here. I spent these last 3 years hunting and living off the land. You may be asking how there's a second part to this. Well, let's just say that God, the universe, or whatever controls this stuff really wants to screw me over. I was on a hunting trip and when I was tracking, I slipped and fell down a small cliff. I ended up fracturing my ankle. Safe. You killed us. It's your fault. You killed us. You watched us all die. I didn't kill anyone, I yelled. I didn't know where I was, but I remember seeing a doctor. I panicked and I lunged at him. I then proceeded to attack him, and I kept screaming, "You did this, you killed them." A couple of doctors tranked me, and I woke up in prison. So I was arrested for attempted murder. 2 weeks went by till I was called out of my cell. "Dr. Aaron Roca, there are men here that want to talk to you." As I walked to the booth, I recognized the man waiting to talk to me. It was the guy who drugged me into this, the man who led the first experiment. "Hello, Aaron. Well, it seems like you got yourself into some trouble now. Well, look, I can help you out." "Look, you sicko. I don't want anything to do with you and your sick experiments." "Well, I guess you're just gonna rot in prison until the end of your days then." He proceeded to get up and walk away. Instinctively, I yelled out, "Stop." I had no idea what was going through my head, but in a moment of desperation, I had made my decision. "I presume that you've changed your mind. How exactly can you help me out?" "Well, you see, we've liked your work so much in your last experiment that we wanted to bail you out. Of course, only if you agree with our terms. And those are, we have a new research chemical that we want to test. S-180, aka the God Serum. Look, as long as no test patients are harmed and no children are involved, I'll comply." "Look, I promise that no children will be involved this time, but I can't promise that no patients will be harmed. To compensate, we'll use death row inmates as the test patients. Does that sound good to you?" "Yeah." "Okay then, well let's get you out of here. The file explaining the goal of this project should be arriving to your house in about 2 weeks." Looking back at it, I wish I would have just rotted away in that jail cell. Like the director of this project said, no later than 2 weeks, and the file was in my mailbox. Page 1 described what this substance was made out of. This serum is mostly psychoactive, but there was also going to be physical changes from what I've read. And that's where I come in as the geneticist. Page 2 describes the meaning of God Serum. It was given that name because of its tendency to make ordinary people believe that there's some type of God, giving them a God complex. Page 3 describes the physical changes that possibly could take place, like changes in skin tone. Once again, I found myself flying over Texas skies soon to arrive in San Antonio. Once I arrived in San Antonio, I was sent into an immediate panic attack. Instant thoughts started to flood my mind. I started to remember what I had witnessed. I collapsed. I then woke up in that godforsaken research facility. "Welcome to the San Antonio Research Facility. It's nice to see you again, Aaron," the director said. I was on the verge of passing out again, but I found the smallest bit of composure to regain my stability. "Hey, look, don't smile at me like you're some type of good guy. I know what you sociopaths like to do for your so-called research purposes." "Oh, look, Aaron, I don't have time to play around with you. You're going to do your job and we can both leave here happy. Okay? Well, I think you understand." He walked me through the facility, leading me into the laboratory. Suddenly, through the corner of my eye, I saw the same doctor that had performed the last experiment with me. Let me guess, you got blackmailed into this too. Well, you know, I just haven't been the same ever since that last experiment. And let's just say that I've obtained a bit of a drinking problem that led to bigger issues. That's why I'm here. Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I need both of you to start getting ready to start the experiment, the director said. Alright, listen up. You all aren't rookies, so don't make rookie mistakes. Aaron, all you have to do as of right now is to take notes. Robert, you will monitor the brain activity of the patients. And last but not least, Jessica, you will inject the serum and will coordinate the pace of this experiment, the director said. What will happen to the test patient? Robert interrupted. Well, I was about to get there before you rudely interrupted me. The goal of this project is to test out S-180, aka the God Serum. This serum is predicted to induce mostly psychoactive changes, but physical changes will take place as well. Hey, look man, what is the goal of this project, other than injecting some BS into test patients? Robert asked again. Look kid, you don't get paid for answers, you get paid for your work. Now everyone get ready, we'll be starting shortly, the director said. Nerves started to rush through my veins. Jessica then calls the patients into the room to begin injecting the serum. Also, I forgot to mention who these test patients were. The first patient's name was Oliver. He was sentenced to death row for capital murder. The second was Mac, sentenced to death row for hacking government databases. And finally, the third patient, Jane, sentenced to death because she was convicted of mass murder. 14 if I can remember correctly. So knowing this information about them made me feel a little bit better participating in this experiment that I knew wasn't going to end well. Alright everyone, set the timer, this experiment is now underway. Hour 1. Nothing odd was observed other than a bunch of sociopaths giving each other death stares. Hour 2. The test patients started to talk amongst themselves about why they had gotten sentenced. So, why are you here, cutie? Max said. Well, let's just say I got carried away quite a few times, Jane replied. If any of you say another word, I will happily make y'all my last victims, Oliver said. Whoa, hey man, I mean, we're all crazy, but I think we can be relatively normal for a bit. Well, at least until this experiment ends, Max said. Until the experiment ends? You really are clueless. What part of death row inmates and experiments go well together? Look man, just don't make these last few hours of my life miserable. Please, just shut up. Hour 3. And this is when things started to take a turn. Guys, come check this out, Jessica said. Right before my eyes, I was seeing a neurogenesis take place at a rapid rate. Although a massive spike in neural activity was taking place, nothing seemed even a bit off from the test patients. Hour 4. Suddenly, out of the blue, the most unexpected things happened. These what I thought to be mentally deranged people were actually apologizing for their faults. They started to look up to the ceiling. Maybe they saw something that we couldn't, but they were quite literally being judged either by themselves or something external. Hour 5. This is when I started to notice physical changes. All of the test patients' temperatures were normal up until this hour, but suddenly, all of their temperatures spiked to 110. Other than this, the test patients remained quiet throughout this hour. Hour 6. Hour 6 mostly consisted of Oliver crying uncontrollably until he ran out of tears. Why, no, this is nothing like me. Hour 7. Jane started to behave in a very unusual way. First, it started off by her gagging, and then she started to walk on all fours, consistently repeating, I'm an animal. I will always be an animal. I don't deserve to be a human. Hour 8. It was pretty much a continuation of Hour 7. You may be asking, what was Oliver doing this entire time? Well, Oliver stayed dead silent in the corner, staring deep into the wall, not even once turning away. Hour 9. Mac finally broke his silence. We deserve this by all means. We become the bottom of the pit. Let us feel the wrath of God. Mac then goes on to leap in an unnatural way straight to Jane, and then proceeded to attack her while saying, You are a sinner. You are no better than the pigs who bathe in crap. Hour 10. Mac had beat Jane senseless, leaving her dead within 30 minutes. Oliver, throughout this whole time, stayed weeping on the ground. Okay, I think that's enough for now, Mac said. Mac, is it possible that even I can be cleansed? Oliver asked. Good question, but no. None of us will be forgiven for what we've done. But I won't let us go out without experiencing just a fraction of the pain that we've caused, Mac replied. Then why haven't you killed me? Do it. End my suffering. I can't take this anymore. Because you're going to kill me. How about you end my suffering? Mac said. I'm scared, Mac. Is it possible that you can comfort me before the end as my last wish? I beg you. Mac stayed quiet, and then again he sat down in the corner, fixating his attention at the wall. Hour 11. This is when the biggest physical change took place. Oliver and Mac's skin started to turn light blue. You could see their veins and arteries. Why was this happening? I have no idea. But slowly, I started to understand. Oh, so it's finally coming close to an end, the director said. What the heck is happening to his skin? Matter of fact, what is the research chemical made out of? I won't go into detail just yet, but answering your first question, the reason their skin is turning orange is by the small amounts of extraterrestrial DNA. I had so many questions, but of course, I had to wait until after the experiment for them to explain. Hour 12. Mac quickly gets up and runs at an inhuman level of speed towards the wall over and over again. Oliver quickly joins in. I'm assuming they had had enough of this experiment and decided that it was time to take themselves out. But of course, this egotistical director wasn't satisfied, so he quickly ordered guards to tranquilize the two men and strap them down in chairs. I can't take this anymore, please, Mac said. Freaking do it, get rid of us. I will give you both a quick death if you explain in full detail the reasoning behind these actions, the director asked. Around us exist dimensions, and well, the entity who runs it all. I've seen him and he's spoken to me, Oliver said. Oliver, don't you say another word, Mac spoke. Or what? I want to die already, don't you? Of course I do, but still. You know what waits for us on the other side, right? The director pulls out his handgun and completely unloads the clip into Mac's head. Okay, now that we've got that situated, continue please, the director said. Yeah, well, back to what I was saying. Around us exist dimensions that we cannot see with the naked eye. But once you injected us with whatever that was, we entered this realm. Explain to us what this realm is like. Well, it was quite colorful, strange, and outright unearthly. For example, there were shapes and colors that I've never seen before, entities roaming around in the abyss. And don't get me started on these strange vibrational sounds that I heard. This sounds like a lot like DMT to me, I said. What exactly is DMT, Aaron? The director said. Well, DMT is a naturally occurring chemical in our bodies that is theorized to help us dream at night. And while you can find a pure substance of it and smoke it and experience a trip-like state. I know this from experience, just like on the last experiment. I knew what LSD was like, and now I can clearly see that the guys have decided to modify DMT as well. You catch on quick, Aaron. I'm impressed, but right now isn't the time for that. Explain in broader detail. What else do you want to know? 1 minute I was here in this room, and the next, I was launched into a different dimension. Is this really my existence? Is this really how it's all going to end? Oliver started to enter a psychosis-like state. I couldn't say that I didn't feel bad for him, but at the end of the day, he was still a murderer. We all wear a mask. We are all truly insane. We are all insane. You, me, and everyone here. No one in this world truly knows each other. We all hold up a mask and hide our true nature. We are truly lost and alone. Well, is this your true nature? The director asked. I remember now who I was before my mask was put on. Can you answer my question? No, I remember who I truly was before all of this chaos. I'm gonna need you to give me a better idea about what you're talking about. Whatever your name is, do you remember who you were before the mask? Well, maybe if you gave a better explanation of what you were talking about, I would give a proper response. Ego is the word. Well, hear me out before the mask. What I mean before the ego. When we were children, we were so innocent. There was no fear of death, no fear of status, no fear of anything. The present moment was all we had. The sky was still a bright blue. Look, don't get all philosophical on me. I know what it was like to be a kid, but give me more information about these so-called masks. We slowly became more and more conscious about the horrors of this world, and slowly our innocence started to fade. Life was no longer life anymore, but merely a competition of status. Why do you think children are so precious to everyone? Because they have not yet acquired a mask. But we all know that they too will grow up to know the terrors of this world. I know I wasn't a murderer before, but ego, the mask, can lead you down dark valleys. To my old self, my true self, I truly apologize that I ended up here. Alright, thank you for explaining. You have now earned the privilege of death. I was completely terrified, not of anything visually, but of the words that he spoke. The truth, the light had seeped through my mask. I really started to question myself as well. Who was I before the mask? He's really got you thinking, huh? The director spoke. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, his words did send a shiver down my spine. Well, Aaron, just finish examining their bodies and after head to my office so we can have a little chat. For some reason, their skin turned a very bright blue, but I was confused. If this was DMT, there shouldn't have been any physical changes. But other than the strange skin, there wasn't much of a difference between them now and before the experiment. So, you called me here to talk to you? Well, yes, I would like to thank you for helping us out. Even though these two past experiments don't relate to your work, having you here really does make things run smoother. Look, I'm not gonna act like I'm here by choice, but I feel like I deserve an explanation. Why? Why use children in the last experiment, and why keep on murdering for so-called research purposes? You see, you have become very arrogant, and that's a good thing. The public has been brainwashed into believing that there is a structure, that there are morals. Y'all have been focused on stupid beliefs and external factors, that you have all forgotten that we are human too. We are curious too, and we have goals. We have curiosities, and most importantly, we have power. Why would you tell me all of this? Well, that's why I called you here. You have two choices. Either you stay here and keep on doing experiments until the end of your days, or I simply kill you. I'm sorry that it has to be like this, but you know too much. I will continue to support your research experiments, sir. I only complied to buy time. Right now, I sit in my room writing this to y'all. I'm messed up in the head and I'm in too deep. There's no way I'm going to keep doing experiments, and I'm not going to let that guy kill me. So after this is posted, I will take my last breath in this hellish reality. Be safe and remember, nothing good lurks in the shadows, and if it's possible, try to find the light in this world. This is Aaron Roca signing off.